First of all, Prince Philip visited Australia more than 20 times. I wonder what your memories are of him.
Well, I think as a kid growing up, I mean, in this country, in rural Queensland, we were all taken off to see Her Majesty and Prince Philip arrive in town. They were part of a constant presence. And I think, therefore, whether you're a Republican or whether you're a monarchist in Australia, there's a deep affection for Prince Philip. He exhibited, I think, qualities of authenticity, spontaneity, a sense of humour, these things mean a lot to Australians, but also a deep respect for the man's courage, given his extraordinary war service. So Philip, I think, had these things in bucket loads. And so whether, as I said, you're Republican or monarchist, you knew that you're encountering the genuine article when you sat down and had a conversation with Prince Philip.
And probably that forthright nature probably stood well with Australians as well. But obviously, it made a huge impression on him, apart from him sending Prince Charles for 2 terms to an Australian school. I wonder, did you see him, or did he see himself, and perhaps the way things were going in Australia, as a modernising influence himself? Did you think you saw that?
Well, unlike many of your guests who you've just been interviewing, I'm not an intimate of Prince Philip, so it would be wrong of me to pretend to be so. But as I reflect on his engagement with Australia, I think what he saw in this place was a degree of earthiness and genuineness and, frankly, let's call it raw education that gave rise to the Duke of Edinburgh Award Scheme, as just been mentioned. As a kid in a rural high school in rural Queensland, Duke of Edinburgh Award Scheme was a big thing. That's what young people participated in. So the ripple effect of this across the country was big. But again, I go back just to one thing, and that is, don't underestimate the impact of Prince Philip's his sense of humour in dealing with people, ordinary people, dealing with people as prime ministers, where he would constantly take the mickey out of you. It was, frankly, a wonderful thing. And I've got many recollections of those sorts of engagements with him.
Give us one.
Well, it's quite a recent one, really, after I lost the election here in Australia in end of 2013. And I happened to be in London, and we have a house there. And I was at the opening of an extension to Chatham House in the middle of London. I'm on the International Advisory Board. And Her Majesty the Queen was opening it, and Prince Philip was there. So he bowls up to me with Her Majesty and says, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "Well, Therese, my wife, and I live here at the moment, and she runs a company, and I'm on the International Advisory Board of this show at Chatham House." He said, "I didn't realise they still sent you into exile in Australia when you lost." And to which I said, "Well, Your Royal Highness, actually it was George III who sent my lot into exile in the first place, criminals in chains." And so this just led to general hilarity. That was the sort of guy that he was. And that's why I think, whatever your political background is, when Australians encountered Prince Philip, they believe they're encountering a real live human being, a bit like them, with all deference to British sentiment.
Kevin Rudd,